This is Studio 809.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Outdoors Hiking About Podcast special 10th anniversary edition of the podcast. Today is August 3rd, 2026. Our first podcast was done on August 3rd, 2016. And my special guest today is the guest who was on the first podcast, my good friend and now retired advocate and mover and shaker, which is what I called you in the first podcast.
I like that.
Mover and shaker in the outdoor recreation environment in Colorado Springs is Susan Davies.
Oh, Bob, it's such a pleasure to be back with you, but I can't believe it's been 10 years.
You believe it's been 10 years.
It's insane.
Yeah. And you know, at that time you were ED over at TOSC, Trails of Open Space Coalition. You'd already been there a while, and you were there a lot longer before you retired.
7 years already by then. I think I started in 2009.
So you were there for a while because you retired last year.
I know.
So you were there for quite a while.
I
so
was.
You had
more gray hairs today than then.
I wasn't going to say anything about that. You're not going to get me in that trap. On the podcast we did last week that Kevin and I did, we looked back over the last 10 years, and we did something a little different. We talked about like what were our favorite hikes over the last 10 years.
Oh, fun.
And what I did was I did every year. So 2016, what was my favorite hike? 17, 18, 19, all the way up. Kevin did a little different. He put together his 10 favorite hikes, but they were not necessarily one for each year, which is fine. We just had different ways of approaching it. And I thought that would be fun for us to talk about what's happened in this area in the last 10 years. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, my favorite podcast was this one and I aced this one or anything. I want to do that because this is going to be, you and I are going to be 478 podcasts. This is number 478. I cannot conceively go back and say which one was my favorite.
They were all your favorites. They're like their children. You love them all.
They all were good in some ways.
They were all different.
I really like the ones where I bring in people from outside the region and we talk about different things. And they were all good. I think they're all good podcasts at the very least. Some were better than others, but I can't say this was the best one or that was I can name one that was the worst one.
Yeah, let's not talk about that one.
We won't talk about that one. Let's just say some federal agency when you want to talk to a rep.
Yeah,
don't send your PIO doesn't know anything. But, I've done a lot of podcasts. So I thought we could do, and you and I have talked about what would be the best thing to do for this 10th anniversary podcast. And we decided that one of the things we would do is talk about some of the big things that have happened in outdoor recreation in the Pikes Peak region. And what I did on the way over here today, where we're actually in Black Forest Regional Park. We're
we're hearing children playing in the background. You might not hear them, but we are, and it's lovely.
And the weed whacker's done. The weed whacker was here. And so if you pick up a little bit of an echo, we're trying to minimize it, but we're in a pavilion, but hopefully it's not terrible, and you guys can, I turned everything down, so you're not picking that up. I listened to our first podcast on the way out here 10 years ago, and it was interesting the things we talked about that are on this list that we put together now, which in some cases is a little distressing because in some cases it means we haven't accomplished a whole lot.
Or as much as we hope to.
Or as more as we hope to. And some challenges still persist. And a lot of great things happen that we had no idea were coming when we wrote this up. I wasn't on the TOPS working committee yet. I was still at County Parks. So a lot of things that I have on here that were TOPS related hadn't happened yet. So there's a lot of things on here. So my list is very long, and I don't think we can touch on all of them, but I guess we can. I don't know. How do you want to do this? What do you think is the best way to do this?
Well, let me start by saying congratulations, my friend.
Well, thank you.
What an accomplishment to so much. First of all, it's one of the best podcasts in the region. Everybody says so. And the second thing is, how many people keep this going for 10 years? I mean, that's really perseverance. And as a member of the community, I just want to say thank you.
Well,
thank you for sticking with it.
Thank you. In the podcast industry, and I'll just divert a little bit, most podcasts that start last a handful of episodes.
Right.
478, unless you're This American Life or Joe Rogan or somebody like that, or Dak Shepard or my favorite murder. Nobody lasts this long.
Yeah, no, it's really, you're not wearing feathers today, but it would be a feather in your cap. So congrats to you.
So for all those people who said this is a great podcast, tell them to write a check. Support the podcast.
Well, for those of us who do support you, on behalf of all of us,
you are one of my faithful Patreon subscribers.
Right. So I think it would be fun. We have a good list here, and we can't talk about each one, but we can sort of, fondly reminisce about some of the amazing things that have happened over the last 10 years, which you and I had a hand in sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we didn't, but we can be proud as a community, as a region, that they got accomplished.
Yep, we sure can. So I don't know where you want to start. Boy, there's so much stuff here. I don't want to touch on the negative stuff. There's a couple of negative things here. Let's talk about some positive things.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about Blodgett Open Space.
Oh, great.
In the last 10 years, that has been expanded several times.
I think it was a very good master plan process.
And they just redid the latest number of trails there.
They did.
Just last week before.
Yes. Promises made, promises kept.
Yep.
I know that's not used just by parks, but it's still a great phrase to use. But it was. We were part of that process. We went through a lot of meetings before the regular public meetings. And I think everyone that was involved in that process should be quite proud.
Yeah. And I was happy to say that, that, and that goes back to being funded by the TOPS tax, which was renewed during the last 10 years. So that was renewed, and some changes made to it along the way, but it was renewed. So that's keeping going until 2030.
Oh, even longer than that.
For something.
Yeah, it's a long way.
It's a long way down the road. Yeah, actually, it's no longer than that, 20.
It's 40 something.
Yeah, it goes way down.
So that's good. Fisher's Canyon Open Space.
Yep.
The fact that was purchased, and I'm proud to say that my old organization, the Trails and Open Space Coalition, put in that application to get that done. Yes, we did. So that was exciting.
Wild Horse Ranch Open Space on the east side of town. Nothing going on there yet, but we bought some land that's going to be a buffer between the city and the county, which is much needed. It's directly south of Corral Bluffs, which is going to add a little buffer to that. And it's going to bring some recreation to the southeast part of town that's been kind of neglected, but not because of any neglect it's been neglected, but due to circumstances. That's where you can build houses. So a lot of commercial development's been going on there, where most of the other trails and stuff that's been open on the west side, because you can't build houses on Blodgett, and you can't build houses in Fisher's Canyon. They're going to build some at the bottom, but you can't build there. So, of course, people want to get rid of their land, and they sell it to the city. This was different. This was land that we were able to grab, which was going to be a sea of rooftops if Tops didn't purchase it for the city.
And speaking of South, Cane Ranch Open Space by the county.
I forgot all about that one.
Yeah, I gotcha on that one.
And I was on the county board at the time.
It was on the county board, know, and that was a almost 500 acre piece of property. It has 3.5 miles of trails. It's 4 to 5 miles east of Fountain, and it's something to be proud of, because just like you said, out east, there wasn't much down south. So that was a great thing by the El Paso County Parks Board and the people in charge to make that happen.
I'm glad you thought of that one. I completely forgot. And I was on the board at the time. I should have
thought of that. It's okay.
Let's talk about Cheyenne Mountain State Park.
Yeah.
Originally bought with a lot of TOPS money, plus a lot of state money, plus a lot of it was deeded over. It was your typical state park, a little piece of this, a little piece of that. But in the last 10 years, it's been expanded a number of times. Now, most of that is not seen to the average user. They're not seeing it because the part of the area that we call the park has been the original part of it. But a lot of that, you don't see it yet, but they're working to plan to make it bigger. That park is bigger than it looks when you look at the map.
Well, there's that, and then there's also the case that they added campsites, and the Dixon Trail got finished. So, and you've done that Dixon Trail many times.
I've done it a number of times.
So there's a lot to be proud of with that particular park.
And it's probably one of the before they changed things up with the Keep Colorado Wild Pass and how they do the funding, it was one of the I shouldn't say few, but one of the minority of state parks in the state that was self-sufficient. It made enough money on its own that it could have just funded itself. Where a lot of it's a collaborative thing. Obviously, there's some very small and very remote state parks, and they don't make enough money, so money's all thrown into a pot and doled back out. But Cheyenne Mountain actually makes enough money in a year to just fund itself. So that's a great thing that happened there.
And speaking of state parks, Staunton State Park, you've got that on your list. They added more trails, they added amenities. I mean, that's a little bit of a drive, but absolutely worth the time that you invest to go see it. It's lovely.
The park was built before this last 10 years, but yes, a lot has been added to it since then. And then, of course, we go back to another state park, Fisher's Peak State Park, all the way in the south end of the state. A tremendous thing. Matter of fact, on our podcast that Kevin and I did, one of my 10 favorite hikes was hiking up and around Fisher's Peak State Park because it was brand new. The trails had just opened. It closed at 5 o'clock. We had to be up and out of there. in a hurry, and we did a lot of hiking that day, and I've been there since, and it's just a beautiful place, and now you can hike to the top of it.
It's amazing.
In a couple more weeks when the falcons stop nesting up there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Pineries open space. Think of the improvements out there.
Yep.
I mean, I remember when we dedicated that parking lot, just that improvement was a big deal.
All that
now
was
they've added another trail.
And all that was in the last 10 years.
Yes.
That whole thing. And they've just added a new trail, which to my close circuit, to my friends at the county parks department, you finally got all the trails added to Cotrex.
Good.
It was like 2 years after they added, so, will you guys get this on Cotrex? So close circuit to you guys. Thank you for finally getting it on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a long list of things that people can be really, really proud of.
Yeah.
Very proud of.
Yeah.
And there have been shortcomings. I look back at our, the Walden Canyon planning process. It was a marvelous planning process that many of us were involved in. TOSC was involved with, RIMFI was involved, of course, Forest Service. And we came up with this amazing plan. As many as 1,000 people would come to some of those meetings, and then nothing.
Nothing's happened.
That's hard.
That's
hard.
And we're not going to point fingers. There's a number of reasons why that didn't happen. I don't think it would be unfair to say some of it was some disinterest in some involved parties, but some of it was funding issues.
Often it's money.
Let's talk about money. It's always about money. Some disinterest in some of the involved parties there, whose focus was on other things. Okay, that happens. But there's a plan.
If somebody starts with a plan,
if somebody else shows up there and they want to pull this dusty old plan out of there and say, what are we going to do about this? There's a plan that I think is still viable. There's no reason why it's not still viable, because nothing else has changed up there, so nothing has changed to affect anything.
Well, and we have Black Canyon.
Right.
It's not on our list, too. But Black Canyon open space, which, again, we're still waiting for some vegetation kinds of stuff to have. But
They're still cleaning up a little bit.
Still cleaning up. That was a big deal, but that, too, has great potential.
And that goes back to the Waldo Canyon, because that was supposed to, and still I think in the plan, to serve as a year-round access point to Waldo Canyon, because right now the only way to get up there is off of Rampart Range Road if you know where the trail is, but they close the road in the winter and you can't get up.
Doesn't work.
You can't get up there from Highway 24. We know that that's never ever going to happen.
Never going to happen.
And it was trust me,
so
it was good.
There are steps in place, and yes, it's slow, and you and I are getting grayer. Nonetheless,
I'm getting grayer. She looks awesome.
No, well, we won't go to that. But the bottom line is, we know these things take time. I mean, think how long it took for them to finish the Colorado Trail. Yeah. Think about, there's some of the really big projects that do take time. So we just can't quit.
Right.
We just persevere.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, if things change, circumstances change, and there's an opportunity to do it, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The plan is there, and since nothing has changed as far as the conditions and the ownership of the property, there's no reason why that can't be picked up again.
And the thing that we need to remember, Bob, is that it starts with the land. Right. If you don't have the land, you don't have anything. It's like Corral Bluffs. I know people are frustrated. That was a lot of years ago when we purchased that property, and we still don't have public access, and it's still going to be a while, but at least we have the land.
Right.
At least you'll never see a sea of houses or roofs on that property. It will always be protected, and people should take pride in that. Between
that and Jimmy Camp Creek and Wild Horse Ranch we just talked about, there's a big buffer that's going to be built out there between the city and the county that's going to really prevent things from being a sea of houses all the way to Ellicott or something.
Exactly.
Which is good.
It is a good thing.
Homestead Ranch, talking about some county parks. Yeah. Homestead Ranch out east of town. I think it's one of the county's nicest parks. And almost
it's a well-kept secret,
It's a well-kept secret.
But people should check it out. Yeah. It is lovely. The trails have been improved. Yep. It's very nice.
It's a beautiful park. I love going out there. It's a bit of a drive. But, it's one of those things, if you want the experience, you've got to put in the effort to go get it. It's not like it's a forever drive. It's going to take you from town about 40 minutes to get out there.
And you might think you're going to see Kansas from there, but you won't.
No, but you can you can see some of the really big windmills in Kansas from there.
Yes, you
really tall ones.
What about the two nature centers with the county? Both of them were improved.
Both of them were improved?
Bear Creek.
Yep.
And Fountain Creek Nature Centers.
Fountain Creek had some real improvements because they had a consistent issue with flooding.
Right.
Because
they're both
somebody
lovely.
put it in the bottom of the ramp instead. Whatever they did. But they've improved it. They put the money into it and improved it. Bear Creek is just now finishing because their 50th anniversary is coming up. They were doing some improvements on the inside. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with some folks from there. And their thing is coming up, I think it's August 22nd, their 50th anniversary, which everybody should go there.
That's great.
And chat with them.
Think about the Trail of mobility program.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people have said, what an amazing program. I know they've won awards for it with the county.
A lot.
City has adopted it too, and it is making a big difference for people.
We adopted at Cheyenne Mountain State Park. We bought a couple of the same train hoppers. The county bought a different vehicle. Well, I'm sorry, the city bought a different vehicle, but one that suits their purposes, and that's fine. And all this actually started, well, I first got wind of it from Staunton State Park. We talked about them. They had the track chairs, and I'm like, why don't we get this? And next thing you know, the county's getting it. And I'm like, let's go talk to the people at the county. And they came over and trailered one over to Cheyenne Mountain State Park and let us drive it around a little bit. And next thing we have 2 of them over there.
It's awesome. Something to be very proud
yeah,
of.
I think it's great. The more people we can get out there who otherwise would not be able to get out there, I think is one of the big positive things that this entire region can be proud of. And more and more state parks are picking up. I think was it Bar Lake, I think, got a track chair.
Did they?
I believe they did. So you're seeing more and more these things come out, and it came out of this region. This was the region that, I mean, Staunton State Park, we can kind of extend it that this, you can see Pikes Peak from there. We can talk about it, but they had it. But when we brought it here to El Paso County, when El Paso County brought it here, and then the word got out. Next thing you know, Cheyenne Mountain's buying 2, and the city's buying a couple, and more places are talking about getting these. And they're a little pricey. They're not terrible, but there's so many grants out there to get these things.
Well, I have to share a personal story because we have a good friend who had a bike accident and he's paralyzed. And we have been encouraging him for some time to do it. You still love to run these trails, and you can't anymore, but you could still experience these trails. And Bob, he did it recently, and he said, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back out there. I feel connected again. I feel like I'm back doing the things I love to do. I mean, it almost made me cry just to hear his joy. So, I mean, it seems like such a little thing, but what a difference it's making for people.
And I think in Cheyenne Mountain State Park, they actually expanded the number of trails they can put it onto. They've kind of changed some things up, so they've actually made it even bigger.
It's wonderful.
So people have been out there before, they can go out there and experience something new. So again, a great thing that's been done. And the best part of it is for the user, it doesn't cost anything.
Right.
You have to make a reservation. There's only a couple of units out there, but it doesn't cost you anything. And they'll go out there with you. And if you're going to come out there consistently with a person who's always going to be with you, they'll train them to operate it. So then you can be a little even more autonomous. Don't go four-wheeling off-road. Don't do anything crazy like that.
No, it's wonderful. You know what I'm really proud of, too, is that our state embraced the Keep Colorado Wild Pass.
Yep.
You know, and if people don't understand how that works, why don't you explain?
Well, you know, it used to be that if you wanted to go into a state park, at the time it was about $7, I think, to go into a state park. And some parks are a little more because there are additional fees. But if you wanted to buy a state parks pass, they were, $79 for a state park pass.
For one state park, right?
No, they were good
that
anywhere.
Was for the whole, okay.
They were good anywhere. But it was $79 a year to
and
get
that's
one.
A lot.
And if you wanted like the hang tag, they're like $129. They're expensive. It wasn't terrible if you went to the park often enough, but you would have to make like 10 or 12 visits to a park for that to pay for itself. The Keep Colorado Wild Pass allows people for an extra $29 on their vehicle registration, unlimited access to all the state parks in the state as often as you want for the year until you renew your registration the following year.
It's the best deal in town.
It doesn't cover things like camping fees and programs and stuff like that. But if you just want to go to a state park and go for a hike or go for a bike ride or ride the track chair or one of those devices, that thing pays for it. And it's right on your registration, and it's all there is to it. It's tied to your vehicle, but the old $79 park pass was tied to your vehicle too. You had to stick it to the windshield. So it's tied to your vehicle. I volunteered at State Park. I put in enough hours that I get a free state parks pass. It's one of the few perks you get. I mean, other than the pleasure of working for the state parks. Don't make it sound like I don't like it. But I still buy the Keep Colorado Wild Pass for my car for a couple of reasons. One, in case I don't make it to enough hours and I still want to go out there. But I think it's such an inexpensive way to fund Colorado Parks and Wildlife. That it's just worth it for me to add that $29 to each of the vehicles we have to just support that even more. And it's raised 40. It's way over the expectations. more than $40 million a year.
Wow.
Which is just that. I mean, obviously CPW's budget is way higher than that, but that's added $40 million to CPW's budget. That's just tremendous. Mm-hmm. It was Governor Polis's idea. It was a great idea. I know that he had envisioned making that $19 at some point, then maybe $9. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to be at $29 for a while, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. When you compare it to what it used to be at $79, and it was probably going to go up to $89 and maybe even $100 eventually, it hasn't gone up. It's raising money, and people now just have to go into a park and you're there.
Our parks are the best deal, whether they're our state parks, our county parks, or city parks. I mean, you travel it all and you see other places, other states, even other countries, and you are so grateful and appreciative of what we have here.
Let me put this in comparison to when I spend time in Phoenix in the summer, in the spring.
Which you shouldn't be doing anyway. What are you doing in Phoenix in the summertime?
Because it's not cold.
That's a little hot, though. But anyway.
It's warm. Maricopa County has beautiful county parks. They're huge county parks. Besides being taxpayer-based, they still charge you an entry fee.
Wow.
Their yearly park passes, just for the county parks, is over $120 a year.
Wow.
And the state parks...
And we pay nothing.
And the state parks pass down there are approaching like $200 a year for a statewide parks pass. So when we talk about our county parks don't cost us anything, our city parks, for entrance, obviously you pay for other things, programming, camping and stuff. And our state parks cost you $29. Think of how good of a deal that is. If I in Maricopa County and I go to another county, I have to pay their fees because all the counties down there charge some kind of fee. And they're taxpayer supported, which CPW here is not even taxpayer supported. It's strictly supported by fees and the pass and stuff like that. Great idea. One of the best things I've ever seen come out of the state. And sometimes I question some of the things that come out of the state, but that was a great thing. While we're talking about county stuff, I'm sorry, unless you wanted to...
No, that was all good.
Santa Fe open space along the Santa Fe Trail.
Oh, it's lovely.
The Santa Fe Trail has been there, the new Santa Fe Trail has been there forever, but it was just a trail. You stayed on the trail, which is it was actually the old railroad right away. The railroad's still next to it, but they opened the Santa Fe open space. And what I like about it is the open space is about halfway down. So you got to hike to it. And it's not huge, but they've added some nice trails. Some trails have some really nice views, and it takes you off the trail and you get to wander around and you come right back onto the trail. I mean, there's like a mile of trails, I think, in there.
About a mile.
Yeah.
And it's lovely.
But it's nice and lovely. It takes you out of there a little bit. I think that was one of the other big improvements that's happened around here. So that was a great improvement.
So when you start looking at the list, and this is probably a lot of them, but I'm sure we've missed some new trails, new trail improvements. There's many things that have been done. It's a lot to be proud about.
Let's look at where we're at right now, the Black Forest Regional Park. The Black Forest Fire destroyed this park. Completely destroyed it. And we're looking around at it now, and it looks pretty, but I remember when this whole park was huge, tall ponderosa pines. And you would come out here in the summer to get in the shade. Completely destroyed. But you know what? We're out here now. They've rebuilt the pavilions. We have this beautiful athletic field that's right behind us where I think the kids are going inside now. And the park is still doesn't look like it did before the fire, and it's probably going to be decades. I'm going to be long in the ground by the time that happens. But they devoted the time and effort to just not say, well, we'll just plow it over, we'll fence it. No, they've rebuilt the trails in there. They've expanded it to the north up in the Cathedral Pines, I think it is up north there. They extended into their trail system, so you can go up into Cathedral Pines trails and come back in here. They extended it to the other side of Milan Road, so they've actually added some stuff that they didn't have before here. So, I mean, another great move by our county parks department to look at this devastating, and I mean, we're minimizing some of this. There were many houses lost. It was a disaster for this entire region. But the county parks and the county government said, we're not going to let this park just disappear. And here we are.
And think about Fox Run.
Yep.
Brand new playground. They're improving, the ponds. They're improving the pavilion there,
The wedding pavilion,
the wedding
that
gazebo thing that's
it was
sinking
going to
into
become
the
the
pond.
wedding. It was going to become the submarine.
The underwater.
The
Yeah, that wasn't going to work. But they've had improvements there. There've been lovely things.
Dog park.
Dog park.
Yep.
Absolutely. The Bear Creek Dog Park has been improved. So you can point to so many things. And another thing that it's easy to forget, Bob. I mean, we'd all love to forget about the pandemic, wouldn't we? But during that time, didn't we realize just how critical our parks and trails are to our physical and mental well-being?
Well, when people had nowhere to go, they went outside,
right?
Because that was a safe space. You could go outside, and the parks got busy, and it also pointed out some deficiencies in our parks. But we had never seen anything like that. They were doing fine with facilities up until that happened. But it also gave us some tools for planning, like, we need a little more of this and we need a little more of that, and we need to have some contingency plans.
Right.
But the parks were where people came. And I think that in the long term, what's happened was a lot of people who weren't regular visitors to parks and trails became regular visitors to parks and trails. And I think that even though, things have wound down, the pandemic's behind us, they still realize now, hey, that was where I went when I couldn't go anywhere else, when I couldn't go to the theater, when I couldn't go to the mall, when I couldn't go to the health club. They couldn't go to a spa because you're next to everybody who's sweating, and I still don't go to those
breathing.
And breathing. There are too many people breathing.
Yes.
But now you can go to the park. So people still remember that, I think, and they recognize how important their parks are. And God forbid we ever have anything like that happen again. But, I think we're better prepared for it. We know what to expect.
So I would say in summation that we have done well in 10 years. And your podcasts were wonderful for illuminating some of the good things, sometimes pointing out some of our warts so that we could work on them. But here's to 10 more years, sir.
Well, I hope so. Couple more quick things. Since we started this, our city and county parks are both under third park directors.
That's true.
They are. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I don't know the new county park director. I've not had a chance. I don't like ambushing somebody new into a job and going in there and shoving a mic and saying, what are you going to do for our parks? They're still trying to figure, like I always joke around, they're still trying to figure out where the executive washroom is, But each one of those directors, from the ones that we had when I started this podcast, were great. Their subsequent directors were great. And I know at the city park, he's great. I'm going to assume the new one at the county is gone. I haven't met her. She's from out of town. She's not from within the system, but I'm hoping that she's going to be a great parks director. We've been blessed with a history of really good people leading up our city and county parks.
And great staff. And I know you believe that. When you look at the people that have helped create the trails. I mean, think of all, the Fountain Creek is just not a very friendly creek when it comes to trails, and some of the devastation that have occurred when the Fountain Creek flooded, and those hardworking park staff that would have to go back to the federal government and get more money after years and years and years. I mean, kudos to all of them.
Yeah, every time they rebuild it after one of those things, they build it better because they said, well, we didn't think that was going to happen, so let's build it a little better.
Exactly.
And all the work they've done, and our city park staff, they don't get paid a lot of money. Either city, and especially the county people, they get paid better than they did 10 years ago.
Everything else is 10 times more expensive, so they better.
Yeah, well, the last couple of parks directors made it an emphasis on increasing their pay and benefits.
Yes,
and they had county commissioners who supported them.
Yes, they did.
Who recognized, and I went through this as a public employee, that they eventually recognized that constantly being in a hiring cycle was more expensive than just paying people a decent amount so they stayed with you for a long time.
Yes.
And they've all come to realize that nobody's getting super rich over there. Trust me, nobody's getting rich at all doing those jobs, but they do it because they love it and they're great people, and they do that. So if you're one of those city or county staff,
thank you,
staff people, and I'm not going to forget my friends at the state parks. You guys are doing great work. And let's forget one other thing we talked about 10 years ago, and we'll touch on this real quick, is the friends groups in towns.
Oh, yes.
They're still there. There were some challenges with them. I think we talked a lot in the first podcast about how important they are. Their importance is really still
They're still important.
They're still important. They do great work. They fund things. We have out here, we have the Friends of Black Forest Park. So the Black Forest Trail Association. They do great work out here. Every park out here has a friends group. Almost every park out here.
Your Cheyenne Mountain State Park friends group. Yeah. They're amazing.
At Cheyenne Mountain State Park, we're a fundraising group. And, at North Cheyenne Canyon, when we talked about the the land swap that happened.
Oh, and in the improved trails as were a result.
And the Friends of Cheyenne Canyon donated $50,000 to that project. They came up with the bucks, and all that's happened in the last 10 years.
People who care.
Yeah, people who care, and they support the park staff who can't get they don't have the manpower, they don't have the time to do it because nobody at these park systems has one job. They have a list of jobs, and what they get done on any given day just depends on what's the most urgent thing for them to do that day. And the fact that they actually get stuff done and do it so well is just absolutely amazing.
But this is a good, challenge to our listeners out there. As you're thinking about, okay, what is this next chapter going to be for me? How can I make a difference? I would challenge you to find a friends group in the area where you love to hike, where you love to bike, where you love to recreate, where your children like to play, and step up. It's time to step up and see if they could use your help. And I guarantee you will not regret. Go for one day, go for one project, and you're going to connect with like-minded people, and it'll make a difference.
Absolutely. The more help you can do, and if you can't be out there, then at the very least donate, become a member and donate, and maybe once in a while show up at an event that they have and just tell them you're there for their support. Do all these things, because as much as we just talked about how great the staff is, they couldn't do their job without these great volunteer friends groups that are actually, some of them are work groups like the Guardians of Palmer Park. They're mostly a work group. They do
Friends
labor.
of Ute Valley Park.
Friends of Ute Valley
Hard
do a lot of
workers.
labor. But then you have Friends of Guard of the Gods and Friends of Cheyenne Canyon and Friends of Cheyenne Mountain State Park. They're more money-raising groups. Or they may do a little work, but they're more the money-raising groups.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever way you want to go with that, be a part of it and help support these things. And maybe in 10 years from now, we'll talk about how we have new friends groups and new parks. And
I'd love that.
That'd be great. I don't know if I'll be doing it. In 10 years from now, I'm going to be even older than I am now.
Maybe a little.
About 10 years. I think we touched on pretty much everything.
We did. I love this list. This has been such a fun traipse down, a little hike down memory lane.
It has
That's what we did. A little hike down memory lane.
And I think we might actually beat out the rain. It looks like it's coming.
Good. But friend, it's been a pleasure.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you here. When I was thinking about what to do for 10 years, I said, well, Susan was the first one, and you've been on a bazillion times since then.
Maybe not quite a bazillion, but a few, and it's been always a joy.
A million.
And so let's do it again in 10 years. What do you say? Maybe.
If I'm not pushing up daisies in 10 years, I hope that I have my mom's longevity, and 10 years from now, I'll still be kicking tires and yelling at people. I'll probably be doing a little more of get off my lawn, but we'll see what happens then. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
For all the listeners out there, 10 years of your support has been wonderful. Like I said on the last podcast, if you're a first-day listener, let me know. I would love to just hear what your thoughts are. If you've listened to this from day one, when Susan and I did this first one 10 years ago, if you picked it up since then, wonderful. If you don't listen to all of them, but you listen to the ones that you look interesting, I do that with some of my podcasts. Also great. We're glad that you listen. We hope you get something out of this, whether it's me talking to Susan or me interviewing a book author or an expert, or Kevin and I just talking about our greatest hikes and how we did something stupid. I do the stupid stuff. Kevin's smarter than me. All that kind of stuff. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And we're not stopping. We're going to keep going. 500's around the corner. Episode 500, not too far away. A few months from now. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you for listening to the Outdoors Hiking Bob podcast, special 10th anniversary edition. Talk to you later.